Howdy. Today we are looking at the Dara Vandal Incarnon, or Dara Incarnon on the Dara Vandal, however you wish to say it. This weapon just got its Incarnon form with the past reset on Sunday, and it, along with 4 other weapons, now has its new Incarnon form. It was the Dara, the Okina, Sestra, Sicarus, and Sybaris. Right now, this is the only one I have so far, sad face, but this is the one that we're going to be doing a video on. Wow, big whoa. This is actually already one of my favorite weapons in the game. I am loving the crap out of this weapon. Now, real quick, for anyone interested, this is the random fashion frame. So, the Dara Vandal is obviously a better version of the Dara, is the Vandal version of the Dara. It's a much better version. I wouldn't recommend putting your adapter on the normal version of the Dara. It is technically going to have better stats or stat increases when it comes to the Incarnon evolutions, but the final stats are still going to be worse. I can't directly compare it here because the normal version is crafted from the dojo, but trust me, bro, it's bad. The normal Dara is bad. I mean, if you look at it on the wiki, I mean, that takes 10 seconds, you'll see it's bad. Not that the Dara Vandal fares any better, or much better, I guess, but it is still going to be better. It is a automatic weapon, right? It's got an 11.25 fire rate, 60 base magazine, 1.8 second reload speed, and the stats are heavily status weighted. 8% crit chance, which is real bad. 2.0 multiplier, 30% status, and it has 24 puncture, 1.6 slash, and 6.4 impact for a total of 32 damage, being obviously very heavily puncture weighted. Now, what the evolution 1 for this does, the first Incarnon 1 that lets it go into Incarnon mode, headshots charge Incarnon transmutation, alt fire transmute, switching back will expend any remaining charge, fire high power beams, and gain magnetic damage, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. So if I shoot these enemies in the face, as one does, and we charge the form, now it shoots high-powered beams, quotation marks. You can't really see the beams, it's more like high-powered bullets, or that's what it feels like. But they do actually do pretty hefty damage, and they have inherent magnetic damage on them. However, the magnetic damage value is pretty low, so if you end up modding a different stat onto the weapon, you're going to lose that magnetic likely in that. It's not going to proc all that often. The second evolution, we have 2 options. Crimson Overture, so you get 6 base damage and on kill 20% ammo efficiency for 5 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. That does not affect the Incarnon mode. The other one is Paragon Essence. You get plus 4 base damage, and on status effect, 5% fire rate for 5 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. This does work in the Incarnon form, and is the one that I prefer. However, you can use Crimson Overture if you plan on building the weapon for its normal fire, which it can actually do. The third evolution has Extended Volley for projectile speed. This is only going to be applying to the normal fire, not the Incarnon. Swift Deliverance increases mag capacity by 30. This also, again, only applies to the normal form, not the Incarnon. And lastly, we have Evolved Autoloader for 50% mag reload speed when holstered, or reloaded when holstered, sorry. Also, not going to affect the Incarnon. I definitely prefer Swift Deliverance. It's the best option, I'd say. Then in Evolution 4, there is Death Trap Trigger, which is 14% base crit chance and a 0.4 crit multiplier to the base. High Ground, where it increases your base crit chance by 25% of your current status chance, up to a maximum of 35%. This one was very interesting because it increases the base crit chance off of the total status chance. So adding mods that increase status chance will then increase the base crit chance. Little confusing, but it can give you up to 35% base crit chance, which is quite a lot. I really would only use this on the normal fire mode if that's what you plan on using. Otherwise, I'd rather have Death Trap Trigger, but it's not a bad option. Then we have Elemental Balance for 14% base status chance increase. Not really the best option if you ask me, but it's something that exists. So if we look at the stats for the Incarnon mode, normally, has 30% crit chance, a 3x multiplier, 22% status, and it has 141.5 puncture, 91 slash, 50.5 impact, and 91 magnetic. It does roughly 10 times the damage. I do wish magnetic was the highest weighting though, but there isn't really anything we can do about that unless you decide to mod magnetic on the weapon, which isn't really worth it. So for now, we will be sticking with Death Trap Trigger and building the weapon for its Incarnon mode. With the weapon, there is a couple different options you can go with. My favorite has been electric, and I will show that last, but I do want to talk about the other options. Now, blast damage is something you can build on it if you want to hate life. I would not recommend it. It's going to be decent in the normal fire mode, but it's not really going to do much for the alt fire or the Incarnon mode, I mean. So I would not go for that. You just want big upfront damage if possible on the Incarnon mode. You can build it for just flat damage using like radiation or magnetic and stuff. That's an option, but I feel like that's a bit of a waste. So you would build corrosive, I'd say, normally on the weapon if you're not going to go for status procs, or at least status damage. Now, this is a pretty standard corrosive build, I'd say. Prime Shred, you can just replace this with a normal fire rate mod. The Incarnon mode actually has 3 punch through at base, which is quite nice. So you can just put speed trigger on here instead. Galvanized chamber, galvanized aptitude, which is additive on the weapon, sad face. Critical delay, high voltage, malignant force, vital sense, and galvanized scope. Galvanized scope is very nice here because it's going to give us high enough crit chance once it builds up to get guaranteed orange crits with a chance at red. Primary deadhead, because it is way easier to keep up than merciless. It gives a headshot multiplier, which is very nice, and the negative recoil is also something that exists, I suppose. Now we have nothing affecting our damage on our Warframe, as you can see, and we have no companion. Let us spawn in the 205 Corrupted Heavy Gooners. First we shoot him in the face. You can see the damage of the normal fire, right? I mean, we don't have anything built up yet. We obviously have to start getting our kills. There we go. Now our damage is going to start skyrocketing. There we go. Look at that. 2 shots. Sometimes it'll take more, though. Lots of red crits. We can almost kill this entire group of enemies in 2 shots, 3 shots. That's some very considerable damage, if you ask me. And then the normal fire is actually capable of killing stuff as well. Look at that. That's not bad damage at all. Or at least, in my humble opinion, I wouldn't say it is. Beautiful. Now, I personally do not like building corrosive on my weapons because armor strip is pretty easy to get from other sources in the game. So if you want a higher ceiling for damage, there are better ways to go about this. And the other 2 main options, other than electric, which I had mentioned earlier, is gas. So gas is not too different with the build. The only thing we're changing out is obviously we have to get rid of high voltage for thermite rounds so that we have magnetic. And then instead of galvanized scope, we go with rifle elementalist for more status damage. You can stick with galvanized scope instead of rifle elementalist if you wanted. Honestly, the damage difference isn't going to be too noticeable, or at least not in my experience. So go with whichever one you prefer. You'll have more upfront damage with galvanized scope over rifle elementalist though, but for now we'll do elementalist because it's easier to get. And I do quite like gas on this weapon. It's not a bad option whatsoever. But on these guys right here, we are going to need a bit of help to actually get our stacks going. So we're going to strip their armor, and then we're going to use our epitaph to apply some viral. There we go. Now we can actually build stacks without it taking 9 years, because I always forget to spawn fodder. Alright, this guy's got all of his armor and stuff still. That's pretty good damage, I'd say. And the gas clouds from this row is already almost killing the row next to them. So if we just shoot all down here, Look, it's killing the entire row next to them. That's why I like gas. Gives a lot more AoE to the weapon. That combined with the base massive punch through it has, a 3-meter punch through at base, you can actually kill pretty decently sized groups of enemies without much effort, which should be obvious now. Now, it is going to cap out on gas procs really fast in the normal fire mode, and that means you're really just going to be using the gas for the alt fire. What I really like about the Dera Incarnon is that you can actually use the normal fire and the alt fire. Because if you need to just spam killing groups of enemies, I actually find it better to use the normal mode over the Incarnon mode. But then when there's big chunky guys or like there's acolytes, then the Incarnon mode is better. And something that can easily make use of both forms without overkilling on statuses and still doing big damage is electric. So this is the same as the Corrosive build. The only difference is instead of Malignant Force, we have Stormbringer for bigger electric damage. And this is by far my favorite way of using the weapon. Simulate these enemies yet again, strip the armor off the corner guys just so that we can build our stacks easier. Get these beautiful headshots for Deadhead. And then our damage will start to be fairly good. Look at this guy on the back. This is pure electric. And what that means is we have no armor strip or viral whatsoever. And both of those are extremely easy to get from other sources. Now, if we go into the Incarnon mode, it's still not going to struggle to kill stuff at all. 2 shots. That's pretty good if you ask me. Does some massive, massive damage. And if you add in anything like armor strip or viral, like let's say we shoot these guys twice, right, with the epitaph, and now they're just gonna die in 1 shot. Very effective. And as I did say, you can still kill them with the normal fire mode. You know, add in a couple viral rounds, switch to the normal fire, and it's gonna melt them like butter. Very, very epic if you ask me. Another option, I keep saying as I hit submit, I need to widen my vocabulary, but you can go for a build on just the normal weapon, which I would do Crimson Overture to get that massive ammo efficiency up to 80%, which is pretty huge. And then I would go with High Ground for all of that base crit chance, but you're going to need a lot of status chance to make use of that. And for that, I would recommend a Riven. And if you have a Riven with status chance, like status chance multi-shot in electric, if you decide to build electric on the weapon still, would be very, very effective. Because right now you can see we only have 72% status chance, which is much less than we would like. But if you have a way of increasing that, or like red Archon shards that are on your frame for status chance on your primary, that could also work. Now, I am going to switch it back, and I will be showing this in missions so that you can see it's killing stuff, especially an Acolyte. I was surprised how much damage this did to an Acolyte. So, I'll see you in mission. Big whoa.
潮汐将我的伤痕刻蚀成梦里，突袭中酝酿着风雨，血脉更续，在我皮肉下交织成命运。 扎根于烈火烧灼的龙心，磨砺今世做我的骨骼，放任飓风从口中挣脱，用传说重塑我，用疼痛重铸我。 万军雷霆的巨响，摇撼星魂激荡，惊涛骇浪胸口，鲜血滚烫，淬炼出爪牙锋芒。我必身披星光，在囹圄中远至上。撕裂星海解放，万军雷霆的巨响，摇撼星魂激荡，惊涛骇浪胸口，鲜血滚烫，淬炼出爪牙锋芒。我必身披星光，在囹圄中远至上。
That's it for the showcase in the mission. Ignore the part where I died as soon as I killed the Acolyte, but I like 1 or 2 shot him with the Dar. Pretty sure I killed him in 2 shots. Pretty wacky damage, if you ask me. We do already have a lot of single target DPS weapons in the game that are pretty good, but something about this just feels so right. I love how the weapon feels. I love how the weapon looks. I know there's going to be a lot of people that personally don't care for it, but I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm excited to try the other Incarnon weapons. So if you liked the video, then maybe leave a like and subscribe. That's going to do it. And adios.